Thank you. It's a privilege to be here as chair of the ERB to report to you our year-long effort to review the three parties to the exam. I have to say that all three parties to the exam provide cooperation to us to assist us with our work. I'm happy to report to you also that a copy of our report is on your table. Take that with you. You can also download the report from the NASBA website. Our report covers both the Uniform CPA exam and the IQEX exam for licensings. I want to take a few minutes and just go through some of the things that happened during the year, but also some background that might be helpful to understand all the things that we do during the year. Our CPA Examination Review Board is a standing committee required by the bylaws of NASBA. We provide annual assurance to all the boards of accountancy for your licensing purposes. Our report is directed to the boards of accountancy. As part of our evaluation, some of the things that we do as a single unit of 5 members along with staff members, we were able to, in effect, more efficiently review the three parties. There are some very highly technical and time-consuming items that are required in the review. The psychometric review is also important for the licensing part, and also the security and integrity of the exam and the architecture for the communication surrounding it. There are three parties to the exam. We have the AICPA, we have NASBA, and we also have Prometric. I want to just cover the parts that each of the parties are responsible for. And this is a very abbreviated list because there's certainly a lot more that they're involved with. The AICPA develops the content. They develop the exam items. They score the exam. They provide advisory scores to the boards of accountancy, and they conduct statistical analyses of the exam as far as the results. The statistical analysis is very complex, and it certainly is helpful in providing, I'd say, a sense of fairness about the exam, because if there are items that are particularly difficult or they aren't testing well, they're tossed out, and that's all done with their analyses during the exam. NASBA issues the notices to the eligible candidates to test. They also maintain the national candidate database, and they provide advisory scores to the boards of accountancy. Prometric basically administers the exam through their authorized test centers, and then they transmit the candidate results back to the AICPA for scoring. We have 5 members on the ERB. I'm very fortunate to have 4 hardworking people that put the time and effort in to help our full-time staff as we conduct our review of the parties. The ERB members really act as an audit partner per se, because the staff typically do a major portion of the work, although in each case where a lead member is involved with that part, the lead member will be out in the field during field work, and the lead member then does a first review of the sections of that particular party. We also have 2 full-time staff members. We have our director is Anita Porter, and then we also have an audit manager, Sean Jackson. We also have 2 consultants. Dr. Downing is our psychometric consultant, and Mike Harnish is our IT consultant. Our report that you have on your table there, we issue that annually, and we make the presentation to you at your regional meetings in June. It describes the work that we did during the year. It expresses the assurance that you can rely on it for the licensing, and also it provides a foundation for the legal defensibility of the exam. Through our whole framework, we use the 12 steps of effective test development in order to do our work, and each of our steps that we take typically are tied to one of those 12 steps. We use a risk-based approach for our work. We evaluate the risk. We determine whether it should be high, whether it should be a low risk, and if it is a lower risk, then we may cycle that particular part of the work rather than do it on an annual basis. But we do pay a great deal of attention to evaluating the risk on each step. Then we look at the objective, we look at the control in place to see it meets the objective, and then we develop a testing procedure to do that. For example, if you look at in the Prometric Test Center, there's a proctor that is supposed to walk through the test area at least once every 8 to 10 minutes. And the risk, obviously, is to keep candidates from copying items or using notes and so forth. And so obviously you want to make sure that you control that by having that TCA walk through the test center every 8 to 10 minutes. Well, our testing procedure on that is to basically observe to make sure that they truly are doing their walkthroughs on every 8 to 10 minutes. We cycle the number of test centers that we visit, but we evaluate quite a few test centers over the year, and that's pretty much spread out throughout the year. Talking about the 12 steps for the effective test development, we obtain all the policies. We look at the contracts to make sure we have a good understanding of any changes that are happening in the current year. That comes from the cooperation of the parties. The second part is that we then look at the practice analysis to make sure that the exam is consistent with the practice analysis. We then observe Board of Examiner meetings to ensure that that any changes to the CSOs are consistent with the practice analysis and that they are approved by the Board of Examiners. On the item developments, we'll go to item writing sessions. We certainly go to the review subcommittees and observe. We review the background of the subcommittee members to make sure that they're qualified. Then you come to the test design and the assembly, and we review those panels to make sure that they conform to the content specification that are provided by the practice analysis, that they've done proper review for enemy queuing and any overexposure of items, which is always a risk in the exam if you have items that appear on the exam on a regular basis. Then we look at the packaging of the test as far as the security and really the communication that goes between the AICPA and Prometric with the package. And then on the test administration, Prometric is responsible for that, and we review the items along with the notice to schedules, make sure that they haven't gone by expiration dates. We also look at repeat test takers. They were talking earlier about test takers, and it's all part of the review that we do is to make sure that the integrity of the exam continues to maintain its high quality. Then the scoring validation that's done by the AICPA will review the scoring rubrics. We'll look at the weighting, we'll look at the psychometric data, we'll look at items that have been pre-tested on the exam. Then we'll also review the passing scores whenever the Board of Examiners reevaluates the passing standards. And our psychometrician on staff typically will make a major review whenever that transpires. Then the reporting of the test results that in effect goes back to the individual candidate goes through the AICPA, then it's transferred to NASBA, who in effect provides the scores to the candidate. We also review the requests for any appeals and any rescores as part of our process. One of the most important things you have is the items that are in your bank that are being tested, and we work very closely with reviewing the particular items to make sure that the policies are in place, that items aren't exposed to the candidates either on a release to review course providers, so forth. Our overall 12 steps that we look at when we begin the year, we take a very close look at what's changed, if there have been management changes in any of the parties. We also are always looking at the business continuity plans that are in place. We look at the disaster recovery, we look at IT security, and the privacy part of the exam. I'd entertain any questions if you have questions.